This video is going to be how to quit drinking, 30 tips for your first 30 days. If you like this kind of stuff, please like and subscribe. My name's Arlena. I've been sober for 30 years, and this is my get down. Let's go. So tip number one, set a date and commit. There will never be a good time to quit. There will always be another party, another event. It's a holiday. It's not a holiday. There will always be a reason not to quit. So set a date and make a commitment. Tip number two, create an empowerment playlist. Music is so powerful. It has the ability to change your mood in an instant. There's an old saying that music speaks where words fail. I would encourage you, get all your favorite songs that make you feel inspired and hopeful, and create a playlist. And when you start feeling stressed out, just put it on and it'll change your mood. Tip number three, know your why. Get really clear about why it is that you want to quit drinking. Whether you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, or you're a high achiever and you want to work at your peak performance, get really in touch with why you want to quit drinking. Because when temptation comes in, that is the thing that's going to anchor you to your commitment. And let's be honest, everyone gets a case of the. So a little trick I learned a long time ago was to make a list of all the reasons why I want to quit. Make a list of all the times that you had a bad experience when you were drinking, and when you feel tempted, go back to that list. Tip number four is prep your home. Make sure you get rid of all the temptation in your house. Clean out all your cabinets and just get rid of everything. I highly recommend pouring that stuff down the sink. It tricks your brain into believing you're the kind of person that has courage and that you're ready to commit and quit drinking. But if you can't bring yourself to pour it down the drain, just give it away. The goal really is just to get it out of your house. Tip number five is stock up on healthy alternatives. If your habit is to have a drink at the end of the day, then I highly recommend replacing it with something that is refreshing, that makes you feel good, that doesn't have alcohol in it. And truth be told, you'll want to have these handy for when you go to a social event anyway. Tip number six is to make a list of healthy rewards. And a healthy reward, it could even be like a sweet treat, something that you can reach for at the end of a day. It could be other things like taking a hot bath, going for a walk, doing a yoga class, putting on some fuzzy pajamas, going to get a massage. You need to be able to have something to look forward to and give yourself a treat. Tip number seven, this is really important, set boundaries with friends and family. Do you have a drinking buddy that expects you to drink? Of course you do. So here are two ways to deal with that. One, you either let them know that you are quitting or taking a break and to replace your normal activities with something else. Or the second way to deal with it is to just take a break from that relationship until you feel stronger. This is not a time to be codependent. This is about putting your feelings first. And side note, you might be surprised at how much better your relationships get. Number eight is to identify your drinking triggers. This is actually going to be really important. Most of the drinking triggers are around stress events, things like toxic people, work-related things. In 12-Step Recovery, they talk about HALT, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. These are things that could be triggers for you that make you want to drink. And I know several people who get triggered around positive things because they're so used to introducing alcohol as a way to celebrate. Tip number nine is learn how to calm your nervous system. And there's a couple of tricks that I've learned over the years. One is to literally run your hands under cold water. There was a study done by Western Oregon University that shows you can actually reset your whole nervous system with cold water. So you don't have to do a cold plunge, but you could even just put your hands under cold water, but you could do a cold plunge or you could take a cold shower. But it's so interesting to know that science has verified that cold water therapy will actually help you reset your nervous system. Another thing you can do is box breathing. And that would be like 4 counts in, hold your breath for 4 counts, 4 counts out, and then count to 4 once your lungs have been emptied. If you do several rounds of this, there have been so many studies indicating that box breathing will instantly help you reset your nervous system. Number 10 is to use ODAT to help you get through the day. And this is kind of like a little mind trick. If we think about not drinking for the rest of our lives like that, it just feels like it's too big of a thing to consider. So what a lot of people do is use this idea of just one day at a time. And it's about focusing in the present day. It could be 1 hour at a time. It could be 1 minute at a time, depending on what's going on for you. But the idea is to just be fully present in the moment and just think to yourself, all I have to do is this one day. I don't have to do my whole life. I don't even have to do the whole week. I don't even have to do the whole day. You can literally do just like 1 minute at a time if you have to. Tip number 11 is to find a sober tribe. It's so important for you to find other people that you can do this process with. Humans crave connection, and it is so, like, there's this saying that alcoholism is a disease of isolation and connection is the cure. So it's really important to surround yourself with other people who are doing the same thing you are. Tip number 12 is avoid boredom by staying active. When you stop drinking, you'll realize you suddenly have all kinds of time on your hands. I would suggest that you look at your calendar and find some activities and just fill up your calendar. Either connect with friends, start going to the gym, maybe you want to pick up a hobby that you haven't done in a long time. Go sightseeing. There's so many things that you could do. The idea is to stay active and stay busy so that if you feel bored, you're not tempted to drink. Tip number 13 is to plan for what we call the witching hour. At the end of the day, you come home from work, you're tired, and your old habit is to go to the fridge and pour yourself a glass of wine or grab a beer or whatever. So it's important that you plan for this time. And I would highly suggest that you eat something that has protein at the end of the day. There have been studies that show that if you nourish your body especially with protein, it actually increases your willpower. Tip number 14, start an exercise routine. Physical exercise is probably one of the most underrated tools for healing. Depending on what kind of exercise it is, it could cover a multitude of needs. You do like group exercise, like CrossFit or yoga, it will help you create connection with people. It can help you release anger and stress. And what it actually does is it increases your neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. It even contributes to better sleep. So bottom line, get her done. By the way, if you're enjoying these tips, you can actually just get a whole PDF by going to soberlifeschool.com. You can get the whole guide for free. And there's even a cheat sheet that you can print out and post it somewhere where you can see it. So tip number 15, educate yourself. There are so many books on all kinds of different personal development topics, stress management, relationship topics, money, like anything that you can think of in terms of personal development will be super helpful for you in this recovery process. Of course, I have to recommend my podcast, the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast. Tip number 16 is get enough sleep. Keep in mind that in the beginning, your brain and your body are actually going through a healing process. Alcohol is a neurotoxin, and your body needs time to heal. So you're actually going to need more rest than you think. You can start making significant improvements by eliminating caffeine earlier in the day, stop drinking liquids about an hour before bedtime, and start a wind down routine, whether it's changing clothes, taking a bath, maybe reading a book or watching a show, but get into a nighttime routine that will help your body recognize that it's time to wind down and go to sleep. Tip number 17 is imagine your future self. Imagine yourself living your best life, free of alcohol, feeling good, sleeping good, waking up rested, and really performing at an optimal level. As your identity starts to change, it will be easier to assume this new role as a sober person. Tip number 18 is start a journal. I wish somebody would have told me this when I first got sober 30 years ago, to start a journal and to just start tracking my feelings, my experiences, things I was learning in that beginning period when you're really ready to stop drinking and change your life. It's amazing the amount of transformation that you go through. And journaling is an amazing way of getting your thoughts out, and it really helps to calm your mind. And tip number 19 is about calming your mind with meditation. A lot of people have a lot of resistance to meditation because they think it's about sitting in the lotus position and having no thoughts. And what it really is, it's a practice of sitting down and letting your body be still and noticing that if your mind goes off and starts thinking about something, that you just bring it back. And it's like a practice of noticing and bringing back, focusing on your breath. If your mind goes away a million times, you just bring it back gently a million times. That's it. And over time, since it's a practice, it's something that you can get better at and have longer periods of no thought or feelings of peace. But it tends to start resetting your nervous system. There are so many benefits. I mean, you could just Google benefits of meditation and it's really mind-blowing. Tip number 20 is to help somebody else. There's nothing better than getting out of yourself than to help somebody else. And it actually has the added benefit of helping you improve your self-esteem because it's an esteemable act. As you help somebody else, you kind of take a break from thinking about your own problems or your own stress, your own feelings, and it helps you to feel like a better person because you're helping someone else. Tip number 21 is avoid slippery places. Listen, if you hang out with certain people and you're accustomed to going and hanging out, like maybe go play softball and everybody drinks at softball, I would highly recommend that you avoid those slippery places at least for a while. Especially if you want to get your first 30, 90, 100 days sober, it's a good idea to avoid those slippery places altogether. Not forever, just for a little while. Tip number 22 is prepare for social situations. This is probably the thing that comes up the most. There's a holiday, there's a work event, there's some kind of birthday party or something comes up. You really need to be prepared. So either you bring your own drinks, bring a buddy that knows that you're not drinking, so sometimes they can run interference for you, and have an exit strategy. Make sure that you know how you're going to leave this place if you start feeling uncomfortable. And remember, it's okay to leave. Your job is to manage your feelings. If someone else gets upset about it, that's really not your problem. Your number one priority is taking care of your own feelings. And number 23 is to explore new hobbies. Think about what you used to like to do when you were a little kid. Arts and crafts were my things. My mom and I took a walk through Hobby Lobby once, and she was like, I don't know how anybody can be bored. Listen, I have a million hobbies. I make soap, I decorate cookies and make cakes, do all kinds of stuff like that. So I would highly recommend exploring hobbies, and it's a great way to connect with others. 24 is celebrate the wins. No matter how small the win is, it's so important that you celebrate the wins, whether it's getting through an uncomfortable conversation, whether it's a stressful week that you survived, whether it's starting a new hobby, exercise class. Celebrate the wins. Acknowledge to yourself like how great it is that you are making progress, that you're growing and developing and changing as a person. 25 is give yourself some grace. You are going to have some negative thoughts. You're going to be bored. You're going to be angry. I remember when I first got sober, like I felt like a giant rod nerve ending. Like I felt everything intensely. It was really important for me to not only acknowledge that I was going to have some negative feelings, but not beat myself up about it. So just be really gentle with yourself and give yourself some grace. So tip number 26 is one of my most favorite exercises that I do in some of my classes. I teach a self-esteem course called Reinvent Yourself. This is called the Perfect Day exercise. And I recently heard Dr. Martha Beck talk about this on the Huberman Lab podcast. And I didn't realize that that's where it came from. But this idea is it's an ordinary day, and just write it out and visualize and feel what it would be like to just have your perfect day. Like who would you be with? What clothes would you be wearing? Where would you wake up? And try to involve all of your senses, your sense of taste and smell and touch. And it's amazing when I do this exercise with my students in class. By the end of the 6 weeks, it's amazing how so many people realize really specific things from their perfect day exercise. Tip number 7 is reframe negative thoughts. And I would just like to state right up front, don't believe everything that you think. This is a great time to pull out that journal and just get everything down on paper. This is a way to actually process your feelings to resolution. So instead of stuffing them or denying them or avoiding them, really process these negative feelings, like where is this coming from, what's underneath, and maybe just vent and get as petty as you want and just get it all out. And reframing is a great way to maybe look at something that's been bothering you and think, how could I see this differently? Like what else could this mean? And really just get curious. And by reframing your negative thoughts, you'll introduce peace and start regulating your nervous system. Tip number 28 is treat this like an experiment. This 30 days of no alcohol. There's this old saying in 12-step programs, run the experiment and see how you feel. There's an idea that mood follows action. So as you take actions that are different than what you would normally do, you start to build momentum, you start to build motivation, and you start to build inspiration. And that motivation is going to be something that carries you through your whole 30 days and beyond. We're getting close to the end. So 29 is start a gratitude practice. But gratitude is scientifically proven for reframing your brain, for resetting your feelings. And there's this idea of what you think about, you bring about. What you focus on expands. So as you practice these feelings of gratitude, there's 1,000 things that go right every single day. So as you start this gratitude practice, you will actually start to notice things maybe that you would look over before. So instead of focusing on something negative, your brain is now starting to be reprogrammed to focusing on positive things. And tip number 30, maybe one of the most important tips I have, is don't do this part again. The first 30 days, the beginning part of sobriety, is probably the hardest. It's way easier to stay sober than to get sober. Don't keep doing this part over again. Get really clear about your triggers, how to manage them. This whole process is about emotion management. Just keep doing this one day at a time. Notice how you feel. And if you need extra support, I'm always here. So if you stayed to the end, thank you so much. Drop a comment. What is your favorite tip? And we'll see you in the next video.